Yeah, doctor, you
We will next
can.
slide,
Actually,
please.
I am changing the slide.
Pratikriya.
Yeah, doctor, whether you can see the slide?
And coming to Nirupti. Next slide. Coming to Chigilsa Ulpati. These are the Ulpatis. That is from Amara Kosha. It is clearly mentioned that Chigilsa Ruk Pratikriya. If Roga Avanayane Dhadu and San Prakrya together constitute the Chigilsa term. And if dhatu is used in roga vigrahartha, that means roga durikarana or removal or eradication of disease. Next slide. And coming to nirukti, you must learn this niruktis. Ya kriya vyadhiharani sa chigilsa nivadyate. This is from Bhava Prakasha Purvahanda. Then chigilsa roga nidana pratikare. Vaidyaga Shabda Sindhu. Chigilsa Ruk Pratikriya, Ruja Pratikriya, Nirasana. Ruk and Ruja are both synonymous. And Chigilsa Tat Pratikriya from Rajanibhandi. These are the niruktis. First, we have seen the Chigilsa Udpatti. And coming to the explanation, disease-destroying approaches are called Chigilsa. Ya Kriya Vyadhi Harini, which destroys the Vyadhi, that is termed as Chigilsa. And treating or eradicating pain or disease is called Chigilsa. Chigilsa Ruk Pratikriya, pain or disease. Then separating or keeping away from the positive factors. Roga Nidana Pratikari. These are the niruktis of Chigilsa. Next slide. Coming to Chigilsa Paribhasha. I hope you have learned everything in Sai Chigilsa. Anyway, Ya Kriya Vyadhi Harani Sa Chigilsa Nidadyate Dosha Dhatu Mananamba Samyagat Sa Eva Rogaha. This is also from Bhava Prakasha. This means the disease destroying approaches everything are together called as Chigilsa. Another quotation we have learned from Charagam Sutrasthana. Chadurna Vishagavina Shastana Dhatu Vaidure Pravrittir Dhatu Sapnyatha Chigilsa Ityabhidiyate. The selfless indulgence of this four pada, Hishak, Dravya, Nivasthada, Yogi, Pada Chadushtaya, Chadushpada, enriched in their qualities towards establishing what will be our main aim, Dhatu Samya. That is termed as Chigilsa. This is the Chigilsa Paribhasha. Next slide. Also, Yabhi Kriyabhi Jayande Sharire Dhadavasama Sa Chigilsa Vigarana Karma Tat Vishajam Smrtam. This is also from Charaka Sutrasthana. Everything that is disease destroying approaches, everything is called as Chigilsa. Next slide. Next is the Chigilsa Paryaya. These all are the basic things you have learned from Roga Nidana subject itself. Chigilsidam, Vyadhiharam, Pathyam, Sadhanam, Aushadam, Prayashchittam, Prashamanam, Prakriti-sthavanam, Hidam. Famous quotation from Charaka Chigilsasthana. We can see each paryaya, each synonyms. That is, Vyadhiharam means Vyadhim Harati. Pathyam, Patisrodasam Hidam. Sadhanam means Sadhayadi Swastharam Yasmat. Aushadam, Keshadameva Aushadam, Roga Bhayam Jayati. Prayashchitta, Praya Pave Vijaliya Chittam Tasya Vishodhanam. Prashamanam, Udiryamana Nana Vitha Vyatha Prashamanam. Prakriti-sthavanam, Vishamita Sharira Dhadunam Samada Avadana. I think you can learn this quotation. Chikilsidam Vyadhiharam Pathyam Sadhanam Aushadam Prayashchitam Prashamanam Prakriti-sthavanam Hidam. Better you can by heart this quotation. This is the Chigilsa Paryaya. Next slide. Also, some more synonyms are there. Kriya Karma, Pratikarma, Hishak Karma, Vaidya Karma, Hishakjita Pratisheda, Pratikara, Karma, Cheshta, Roga, Avanayana. So many synonyms you can find out. Next slide. Coming to the Chigilsa classification. In the syllabus point, we can see Chigilsa and its classification. Coming to Chigilsa Bheda, Aparisankheyam Punaryatha Maharoga Adhyaye Ruk Varna Samuthanadi Asankheyatva. First type is Asankheya type. That is in Charaka Vimanasthana it is mentioned. It is Aparisankheya. In Maharoga, there you can see several rogas, and for that, Aparisankhya Chikitsa you can find out. Next is the one type Chikitsa, that is simply Nidana Parivarjana. Nidanana Dosha Karaga, Roga Karaga, Hedunam, Sarvado Varjana. Dalhana commentary is mentioned like that. Ekavida Chikitsa is Nidana Parivarjana. Next slide. Coming to Dvivida Chikitsa. Dvivida Chikitsa means you can see Shita, Ushna, Dravya Bhuda, Adravya Bhuda, Rasayana, Vajikarana, Yoga Prashamana, Apularbhava, Shodhana, Shamana, Sandarpana and Avadarpana, Urjaskara and Rogatna. These are the two types classification. Next slide. Go on to much detail, that is Shida Ushna Chikitsa, that is Vyadikrama Chikitsa. Shidena Ushna Kritan Roga, Shamayendi Vishadjita. Yetu Shida Krita Roga, Tesha Ushnam Vishadjita. You have learned that Shida Ushna treatment. And then come to Shodhana and Shamana. This will be more applicable in this context, Panchakarma context. Sharira Janam Vikaranam Pramena Parama Ushadam Bhakti Viveko Vamanam Tatha Tailam Kridam Mahu. Shodhana type of Chikitsa is there, Bhakti Vireka Vamana etc. Shamana type of Chikitsa using Taila Kridam Mahu for Vada Pitta Kapha Dosha respectively. Next slide. Coming to Dravya Bhuda and Adravya Bhuda Chikitsa. Yes, Adravya Bhuda Chikitsa. Adravya Bhudam Tat Upaya Abhiplutam. Upayo Nama Haya Darshana Vismavana Vismarana Shovana Hatsana Harshana Vada Bandha Swapna Sambhakana Adi. You have learned that Adravya Bhuda Chikitsa in Charaga Vimanasthana. Coming to Dravya Bhuda Chikitsa, it is Dravya Bhuda Pamanadisha Yoga Mupaiti. What all drugs we are using for this Pamanadi Panchakarmas that are included in the Dravya Bhuda Chikitsa. Adravya Bhuda means the synonym is Upaya Abhiplutam. I hope you have learned in the PG entrance and all. What is the synonym of Adravya Bhuda Chikitsa? That is Upaya Abhiplutam. Next slide. We have finished the two types classification. One type is Nidana Parivarjanam. Two types we have learned Shita Ushna, Shamana Shodhana, etc. Then the Trivida Chikitsa. Daiva Vyapasraya, Yukti Vyapasraya and Sattvavajaya, Anda Parimarjana, Bahi Parimarjana and Shastra Pradhana, Asuri, Manushi, Daivi, Hauma, Aukida and Jangama, Apakarshana, Prakriti Vikhada, Nidana Parivarjana from Premi Chikitsa, Lenkana, Lenkana Pajana and Dosha Avasijana. It is Tatra Ante Lenkhanam Patyam, Matye Lenkana Pajanam, Prabhude Tati Dosha Shodhana. Then Hedu Viparita, Vyadhi Viparita, Upayartha Gani. These are the Trivida type of Chikitsa. Next slide. Coming to Chadurvida Chikitsa, there is Dosha Kshina Brahmaitadya, Udida Prashamitadya, Vrittha Nirkartadya, Sama Parivale Visiddhata. Every day, every Panchakarma classes you are learning or hearing this quotation. I hope you have by hearted this quotation. And coming to the Delhana commentary, Kshina means what? Kshina means Kshaya Lakshanayir Jnana. In that condition, Brahmana treatment should be done. Then Vrittha means Vividha is there, Chaya Lakshana and Prabodha Lakshana. And then Kubida means two types, Chaya Purvaga and Achaya Purvaga Oba is there. Sama means Swastha Vritta Vidhanena Parivarya. In that treatment, in that condition, four types of treatment are mentioned. There is a Chadurvida Chikitsa mentioned. Also, one more type is there. Next slide. Samshodhana, Samshamana, Ahara and Achara type is there. That is also the fourth classification. Next slide. Next, going to the Panchavita Chikitsa. That is Ashtanga Hridaya Sutra. It is mentioned Vamana Virejana Vasti Natya Rekta Mokshana. Edhiraye Vasat Doshan Panjatha Shodhanam Cha. That is the Panchavita Chikitsa. Next, Shadvita Chikitsa. Shadvita Chikitsa means Shadubakrama. You have learned in the previous, I think, in the previous class. You have learned the Shadubakrama. Lenghana, Brahmana, Rukshana, Snehana, Svedana and Stampana constitutes the Shadvita Upakrama and Chikitsa. Next is the Saptavita Chikitsa. What is the Saptavita Chikitsa? Pajana, Deepana, Kshudha, Trisha, Vyayama, Adava Sevana and Marita Sevana. Two types of treatments are there in Vivitha Upakrama, Shamana and Shodhana. In Shamana type, it is mentioned as Pachana, Vipana, Chup, Krishna, Vyayama, Adava, Maruda, Sevana. This is the 7 types of classification of Chikitsa. Next is the Ashtavidha Chikitsa. Ashtavidha Chikitsa in Sushrita Sutra Sthana, Ashtavidha Shastra Karma you have learned. Chedana, Sivana, Vedana, Lekhana, Visravana, Vedana, Aharana, and Eshana. These are the Ashtavidha Chikitsa mentioned in Sushrita Sutra Sthana. Coming to Dashavidha Chikitsa, 10 types of Lenkana you have done. Shamana and Shodhana together constitutes the 10 types of Chikitsa, that is Pamana, Virejana, Vasti, Natya, Vipasa, Maruda, Adava, Pachana, Upavasa, Vyayama. 10 types mentioned by Charagacharya. Next is 13 types are mentioned. 13 types means Trayodasha Shastra Karma. That is 8 types of Shastra Karma mentioned by Sushruta. Along with that, Puttana, Dahana, Manthana, Utpadana, and Grahana together constitute the 13 types of Chikitsa by Ashtanga Hridaya Sutra. Next is 18 types. 18 types means in Charaka Nidana we have learned that Hedu Viparita, Aushadha, Anna, and Vihara. Then Vyadhi Viparita, Upaya Viparita, Hedu Viparita Arthakari, Vyadhi Viparita Arthakari, and Upaya Viparita Arthakari, Aushadha, Anna, and Vihara. These everything together constitute the 18 types of Chikitsa classification. Next, going to the 60 types, Shashti Rupakrama. That also we have learned in the Branata chapter. Sushrutam Chikitsa Sthana. It is like Tasya Branasya, not Varnasya. One mistake is there. Tasya Branasya Shashti Rupakrama Bhavanti. No need to bypass this in this context. Just mention that Shashti Rupakrama, 60 types of classification is mentioned by Sushruta Acharya. That is enough. And coming to the Uttama Chikitsa. Next slide. So, up to this, we have finished the classifications. 1 type, 2 type, 3 fold, 5 fold, 6, 7, 8, 13, 18, and 60 types. These are the classifications. And what is meant by Uttama Chikitsa? Just now, this quotation. Yahi udirnam shamayati na anyam vyadhi karodi cha sa kriyatu vyadhi haradi anyam udirayati. In Sushrutam Sutra Sthana, it is mentioned. Yahi udirnam shamayati na anyam vyadhi karodi cha sa kriyatu vyadhi haradi anyam udirayati. Means the treatment is said to be the best and comprehensive when it subsides or pacifies. Shamayati or na anyam vyadhim karodi. When it doesn't cause any another disease. Then only we can say that that is the Uttama Chikitsa. Next slide. No need to by heart this quotation. I have just mentioned. When in your exam, one question is coming, Chikitsa, write about Chikitsa and its classification, then we can include this point also. This is Krishat Ado Pariksheda Ruknasya Ayu Prayatnata Sati Cha Ayushi Vistirnam Chikitsa Saphala Bhave. This is from Bhava Prakasha. Krishat Ado Pariksheda Ruknasya Ayu Prayatnata Saticha Ayushi Vistirne Chikitsa Saphala Bhave. This is nothing but before we are going to treat a person or before we are starting a treatment for a person, just ensure that whether they have good lifespan or Ayu Pariksha should be thoroughly done or analyzed. Then only we can get a fruitful outcome after the treatment. That is mentioned by Bhava Prakasha Purvakanda. Next slide. Also, 2 similes are mentioned. That is regarding the ayus or lifespan and chikitsa. That is, just like an elephant trapped in a wet ball of mud cannot escape without help, like that, the patient too cannot recover without the administration of treatment. When even in the presence of ayu, The disease will not recover and get gone if the treatment is not done at proper time. So we should do the treatment at proper time. Then only, if wherever that person is having good lifespan, our treatment will work, or fruitful outcome we will get. That is the just like an elephant trapped in a wet bowl of mud cannot escape without help. The patient cannot recover without the administration of treatment at the particular or proper time. Also, another is there, even in the presence of Ayu, if suitable treatment is not done at time, disease will worsen and the patient will die. Sometimes the roga will be satya. If we are not doing the treatment in the correct time or proper time, then it will worsen and it will go to the asatya type. And the simile is mentioned that just like a lamp will be put off even in the presence of oil and wick, if not protected from the strong heat. That is the two similes mentioned regarding the lifespan and lifespan or ayu and the treatment. If the treatment is not done at proper time, and the patient will get worsened and he or she may die. This is the uttama chikitsa. Next slide. So next is the principles of chikitsa. Principles of chikitsa. Some headings are there. You can write in the exam whatever you have learned in the chikitsa first paper, and just I have included this much points only. This Moola Chikitsa, Sharira Andargata Dosha Chikitsa, Thana Dosha Chikitsa, Apakarshana Chikitsa, Sannipada conditions, and Anubandha and Anubandhya Chikitsa. Next slide. Coming to this Moola Chikitsa is also the radical treatment. Here we are eliminating the disease from its root cause itself. And it is of two types, Shamana Chikitsa and Shodhana Chikitsa. In Shamana Chikitsa, you know that in this, for pacifying this Vata dosha, Madhura Ampla Lavana Rasa and Snigdhoshna Ahara Vikharas we are using, and thereby it will reduce or release the Vata dosha and Pakvashya, and it relieves the Vata Roga Lakshana, what all that are spread all over the body. That is the Shamana Chikitsa. That is Moola Chikitsa. It is divided into Shamana Chikitsa and Shodhana Chikitsa. In that Shamana Chikitsa, for example, I have told that in Vata Roga conditions, we are using Madhura Amla Lavana Rasa, Ushna Snigdha Rasa, etc. And coming to Shodhana, we are eliminating from the root cause to natural passages. That is from Vamana through Urdhva Amashaya and from through Pakvashaya, Vasti can be done. That is the Shodhana Chikitsa. Next is the Sharira Andargata Dosha Chikitsa. Means that is the dosha, when doshas are spread all over the body, then also Shamana and Shodhana Chikitsa are recommended. Shamana dosha is recommended when doshas are spread throughout the body but not sufficient to bring back the posture. That is, one example is there, when doshas are in Dina Avastha, Shamana should be done by Pajana. We have seen that Saptavida Chikitsa in that Pajana, Kshut, Trishna, Vyaya, Adapa Sevana, etc. are done. In that Leena Dosha Avastha, Shamana by Pajana is done. Next slide. Also, administration of Pajana and Dibana drugs are included in that Shamana. Then also Agni Varthana at Dhatu level also we are using in the Shamana type of diseases. Then coming to Shodhana Chikitsa. Plan of Shodhana Chikitsa should be like this. To increase the dosha, Sneha dosha Vriddhikara Ahara you must use. To dissolve the dosha, Sveda Karma and Pachana Dravya, that is Vilayana is offering. Then to move to the Koshta, Sveda, Tikshna, Ushna Dravyas are used, eliminating through the nearest channel, that is Asana Marga, we are using the Shodhana Karma. Next, coming to the Sthana Dosha Chikitsa. So we have finished the Moola Chikitsa, Sharira Andargata Dosha Chikitsa, then Sthana Dosha Chikitsa. This from the basic principles, that is from the first year, I know you are learning this Agandu Dosha, Nija Dosha, etc. The conditions. If Agandu Dosha comes to another Sthana, what should be the treatment? To the treatment of Sthaniya Dosha. One example is there. Increased pitta in urdhva amashya, which causes purodaha. Then what should be the treatment? Purodaha means it is a kapasthana. So do the sthaniya dosha chikitsa. That is the act chikitsa is vamana karma. And another condition is if both agantu and bija doshas are vitiated, then treat the baliya dosha. The strengthened dosha should be treated first among the two. Next slide. And also if aganta dosha is predominant and sthana dosha is weak, some more conditions are there regarding this aganta dosha, sthanagata dosha. If aganta dosha is predominant and sthana dosha is weak, then treat predominant dosha followed by sthana dosha. That is, predominant dosha should be treated first. Another condition is if nija dosha is stronger than aganta dosha, treat that potent dosha without disturbing the other dosha. That is in acute jwara condition, we are giving jwara shamaka treatment first or pitta shamaka treatment. In Sanskritam, jwara chikitsa it is mentioned as shamayeshu pitta madau jwareshu samavayushu. And later on, we will treat the ama conditions with pajana dravya. And also, if both doshas are causative factors, bija and aganta doshas are causative factors, we must treat the predominant one with aushadha and associated with pathyahara. These are some of the conditions regarding the agandu and bija dosha. You can include whatever you have learned in the first year classes and all. Next is the apakarshana chikitsa. Apakarshana chikitsa means here the vada dosha is the main reason for apakarshana condition rather than this agandu condition. So vada shamaka and rasayana chikitsa will be the most applicable chikitsa. Next, coming to sannipada or sarvabhova dosha conditions. When these three doshas are in vitiated state, what we should do? Elevate the kshina dosha, maintain the balanced dosha, and pacify the vritta dosha to make the balance of the doshas. You will learn in the jwara chikitsa like this. Jwaran dosha kramapeshi yathope aushadharjye varthanena eka doshasya kshamanena uchradasya va. Is elevate the kshina dosha, maintain the balance dosha, and pacify the vritta dosha to make balance of the dosha. Also, first in Sannipada condition, first treat the key factor of dosha, which is responsible for making the samprapti of that disease. We have learned in the Sannipada Jwara condition, Tapasthanana Purvyava, Sannipada Jwaram Jaye. First, you must treat the Kapha dosha to break the Srodorotha, then only the Roga will be cured. Also in Vakpada, Sushrutacharya and Charakacharya have mentioned the order for treating the Sannipada conditions. Like Vakpada have mentioned that treat the Sannipada conditions with Pravara, Madhyama and Avara dosha. That is, sequence should be Pravara, Madhyama, Avara condition of dosha. That you must look and then only treat the Sannipada condition. But Susuda have mentioned that Vada, Pitta, Kapha dosha should be sequentially treated. First Vada, then Pitta and Kapha dosha should be treated in Sannipada conditions. Why? Because Vada is the prime or more important in making samprapti. That is Pittam Pangu, Kapam Pangu, Pankavo, Malathanava, Valina, Yatra Niyanti, Tatra Gachanti, Nekavar. That quotation, the importance of Vada is mentioned. So that is why Sushrutacharya have mentioned that Vada should be firstly treated. Then Charakacharya have mentioned that first treatment should be done at the site of Sthana Samsraya without disturbing the other doshas. Which dosha is responsible in this Sthana Samsraya condition, that should be treated first. That is by Charakacharya. Next is the Anubandha and Anubandhya condition. Here, first treat the Pradhana dosha.
Ma'am, you are not audible.
Independent and which exhibits its own features and which is relieved by its own.
Ma'am, your sound is breaking.
Pradhana dosha should be treated. Then
Ma'am,
only we must treat the Anubandha dosha or Apahara dosha. These are the
excuse me, ma'am. Hello.
So coming to the Anubandha and Anubandhya dosha, that is first treat the Pradhana dosha. That is that it will be independent and it exhibits its own features and relieves by its own. So that should be treated first, and then only we can treat the Anubandha dosha. Along with that, some Upadrava will also be occurring. That also, if Upadrava is there, that Upadrava should be treated first. Then only we can treat the Baliya dosha. Also, you can write in the exams, that is Samprapti Vikatana. In the Chigilsa definition, you have learned the Samprapti Vikatana, then Dosho Bakramaniya Adhyaya, Shodhana, Shamana, everything you can include in the, if whether the question is asking that Chigilsa and its classification, write its principles of Chigilsa, then you can include these much points. Okay. Next slide. Next is the Anda Parimarjana and Bahi Parimarjana Chigilsa. Anda Parimarjana, you know that includes the Shodhana karmas, every Shodhana karmas, and Bahi Parimarjana means whatever we are doing externally, that includes in the Bahi Parimarjana Chigilsa. So, what is Anda Parimarjana Chigilsa? Yet Aushadam Anda Shariram Anupravishya. Whenever we administer any medicine internally, it is termed as the Anda Parimarjana. Also, Ahara Jada Vyadhin Pramarshati. Nirama Dehasya hi Deshajani. Doshanam Kshayam Vrittim Samatvam Avaranam Vitnyasya. Then Yedi Irayet Bihir Doshan. Langhana Upakrama. Samshodhana Chigilsa. These all are the synonymous or some definitions of this Anda Parimarjana Chigilsa. Next slide. So this Yukti Vyapasraya Aushada, we have seen in the 3-4 classification, Deva Vyapasraya, Yukti Vyapasraya, and Sattvavajaya. So this Yukti Vyapasraya Aushada, it can be the Anda Parimarjana Chigilsa. That include Lankhana or Apatarpana. In that comes the Shodhana, Samshodhana Karma. That includes the Pradhana Karma and Gauna Karma. Pradhana means Vasti, Virejana, Vamana, and Shiro Virejana or Nasya and Rakta Mokshana. These are included. Next slide. So, Samshodhana. These every definitions you have learned in every Panchakarma classes. Just I am refreshing your mind or brain. Sharira Janam Vikaranam Vastir Virego Vamanam. That you have learned. Chadushprakara Samshuddhi from Charaga Sutrasthana. Yadirayet Bahir Doshan. Tan Yupastida Doshana Panjata Shodhanam Chatat. That one you can write. Chaya Eva Jaye Dosham. Then Sarva Kope Shesha Dosha Avirothata. Everything is regarding the Samshodhana. Next slide. So this include Purva Karma, Pradhana Karma, and Paschat Karma. In the previous class, we were dealing with this importance of Purva Karma and Paschat Karma. So from Purva Karma, we will prepare the patient, and in Pradhana Karma, we will do the main karmas, and Paschat Karma include the Speyadi Samsarjana Karma and Parihara Vishayas. Next slide. Next is the mode of adaptation of Samshodhana. That you have learned the Pajaneir, Deepaneir, Snehi. Vedesha Parishkradan Shodhaye. That means the order, first you should do the Pajana, then Deepana, then Snehana, Svedana. Then only we will shift on to the Panchakarmas, main karmas, and then coming to the Paschat Karma. Next slide. Next is, that is Vaktrena Amashaya Malan Hare. That is the Amashaya dosha is expelled through the Vamana, and it is done through mouth. Khranena urdhajatlustan, Gudena pakvadhanat, then Utklashtan Adha Urtham va Hare, Pravrittan Doshan Pravado Uveke. Next slide. Na nirhare means which dosha should not be expelled. That is Saman dosha Sarvadeha Pravisthadan. In the previous class also we have discussed this quotation. Next slide. Next, coming to the anatomical limitations of Samshodhana Aushadhi. Means this Kapasthana, Pittasthana and Vadasthana. That is in the oral cavity till pylorus, it is the Kapasthana. And pylorus till ileocecal junction, it is the Pittasthana. And from ileocecal junction till anal canal, it is the Vadasthana. That we have learned. So, regarding this Shodhana Karma or Shodhana Aushadhi, in Andhakosha, this Vamana Aushadhi works up to the pylorus. And Virejana Aushadhi works up to the ileocecal junction, that is a Pittasthana. Vasti Aushadha works up to the anal canal or sigmoid colon. These are the anatomical limitations of Samshodhana Aushadhi. For the exam purpose, you can include in the whether the question comes. Next slide. The Karya Kshetra of active principles of Samshodhana. Which all doshas or which all parts will be benefited by this Shodhana Karma. It will be all over the body and it enters through the Sthula Anusrotas and it will be Agni modulated. Because after this Shodhana Karma, this Agni will be deranged. That is why we are giving the Peyadi Samsarjana or Tarpana Adikrama. Then Samshodhana, that is the Samshodhana is successful and complete only after Samsarjana Krama, proper Samsarjana Krama. Proper diet restrictions should be there and gradually only we will enter into the normal diet. That is the Karya Kshetra of active principles of Samshodhana. All over the body will be benefited and then it enters through the Sula Anusrodas and it will be Agni modulated. And thereby this Samshodhana will be successful only if we do the Samsarjana Krama, either Tarpanadi or Rasa Samsarjana or Peyadi Krama successfully. Next slide. And the relation between Samshodhana and Ashtanga Ayurveda. Wherever this Samshodhana is mentioned in this 8 branches of Ayurveda. In Bala Roga, you can see in the Stanya Pradoshaja Vyadhi, Parigarbhiga Roga, Talu Kandaga, etc. This Shodhana Karma is mentioned. Also in Graha Roga, Revati Graha, Putana Graha treatment, this Samshodhana is mentioned. Visha Tantra, Gada Tantra also, Sarpadamsha, Sthavara Visha, etc. In Urthanga, in Shalakya Roga, Vada Abhishanda, Adhimanda, Puya Alasaga, in this also Samshodhana treatment is there. Shalya Tantra, Vrana Chigilsa, Bhakna Chigilsa, Arsha Chigilsa, Samshodhana is mentioned. In Rasayana Vajigarana, Shodhana Karma is mentioned as a must Purva Karma. Then only it will be more beneficial. So these are the Samshodhana and relation in the Ashtanga Ayurveda. You can add on this quotations or anything you can add regarding this as you have learned this Kaumara, Prasudi, Agada, etc. These are all are about the Andha Parimarjana Chikitsa. Next slide. Coming to the Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa. This also you have learned in the Purva Karmas. Sneha, Bahya Snehana procedures you have learned. So the definition is Bahya Daha Shuddhi Garam Bheshajam. Bahisparshanam Ashritya Abhyanga Sweda Pradeha Parishega etc. That is whatever treatment we are doing externally. That is Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa. So skin is the largest protective barrier in the body that prevents the invasion of microorganisms and foreign bodies into the body. That you know. So the main area of Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa is Twat. And the treatment like Abhyanga, Sweda, Parishega, Pradeha, Unmardana, Mardana, etc. according to the disease are known as the Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa. So every Bahya procedures, Snehana procedures, Svedana procedures prior to this Shodhana karmas are included under Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa. Next slide. So coming to the mode of action of Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa. It is in Susruta Sharira, you can see that Tiryaganam tu Chadasranam Tamaninam Ekaiga Dashatha Sahasradha cha Uttarotara Vibhajyate. That means the network is divided. These blood vessels are divided into thousands, hundred thousands, and so many and innumerable. Uttarotara, that is dividing day by day, and then it is asankheya, innumerable, and Tabhirida Shariram Gavakshidam Vibhattam Adadam cha Tasa Mukhani Roma Hubam Pradibathani Yaihi Svedam Abhivahandi. Means this network is connected to the hair follicles under the skin, and thereby the mode of action starts from here. That is Tairevacha Abhyanga Parishega Avagaha Alepana Viryani Andashariram Apipratipadyante Twaji Vipagani. So this through these hair follicles, the virya of this Abhyanga, Sweda, Pradeha, Parishega, etc. will enter into the body. Like that, the mode of action is mentioned for the Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa. Next slide. So coming to the classification, it is seen that Sarvanga classification and Sthaniga classification you can see. That is, we are doing this external procedures locally and whole body. If say for example, if one patient is coming with some swelling, initially some AMA condition is there, so we will treat initially by doing the lepa. Say for example, in the knee joint, in Jana Sandhi, they have edema. Shofa is there, then we will do the external lepa only there initially for subsiding that inflammation. Then only we will go to the whole body treatment. So that is the Sarvanga and Sthaniga classification is there. Sarvanga means Abhyanga, Sveda, Udvartana, Dhara can be done Sarvanga. Sthaniga we can do Abhyanga, Sveda, Lepa, Parishega, Tarpana, Karna Purana, Kabala, Gandusha, Murtha Taila, Yoni Piju, Anjana, Ashchodana, everything these are the Sthaniga type of classification. Next slide. Coming to Dosha Anusara classification, in Vada conditions, we will do Abhyanga, Sveda, Mardana, Parishega, then Veshtana. Next, for Pitta Dosha, Manidharana, Karpura, Chandana, Ushira Lepa, Shidambu Thara, Shida Graha Nivasa, etc. are mentioned. In Kapha Doshas, Ruksha Vimardana is mentioned. That is Mamsala, Medura, Puris, Leshmano, Vishamakne. In that condition, we will do externally Ruksham Udvartanam. That will be the first choice. Then only we will go for the next treatment. Next slide. Next is the Rudu Anusara Bahi Parimarjana. This means in Shishira Rudu, in each Rudu, some external treatments are there. In Shishira Rudu, that is Abhyanga, Utsadana, Murtha Taila, Jayantaka Sveda, Atapa Sveda, Ushna Graha, Nivasa, etc. You can see. In Vasanta Rudu, Vyayama, Udvartana, Kabala Graha, Anjana, Chandana, Agaru, Leva, etc. In Grishma Rudu, Shida Graha, Nivasa, Manidharana, Chandana Leva, you can see. In Varsha Rudu, Prakharshana, Udvartana, Sugantha Dravya Prayoga. Sharat Rudu, Rekta Mokshana with Alabu or Prachana you can do. In Hemanda, as in the Shishira Rudu, it is mentioned. Next slide. Next, Bahi Parimarjana as Purva Karma. This is only in one slide. You can elaborate it in exams. Sarvanga, Abhyanga and Sweda in Vamana Karma and Virejana as a Purva Karma. That is in Vishrama Kala, we are doing this Sarvanga, Abhyanga and Sweda in both Vamana and Virejana. Also, Sthaniga, Abhyanga and Sweda are giving to the Kadi Pradesha before doing the Niruha Vasti or Anuvasana Vasti. Then Sthaniga, Abhyanga and Sweda to Gala, Kapola, Karna and Anana as Purva Karma in Nastya. Nastya also, we are doing this Purva Karma. this Bahiparimarjana as Purva Karma. So this is only included in one slide. You can elaborate it with quotations and you can write it beautifully. Next slide. These are the one research publication, a review article on Bahi Parimarjana Chikitsa before Shodhana Karma. You can just go through it and add on some points also. Next slide. Next, coming to the Kriya Kala. This will be a revision for this first year topic. So, Kriya Kala means the series or stages of diseases successively developing in periods of Kala is Kriya Kala. I'm just going some little bit speedily. So, recognition of the stage of diseases progress, which helps to determine appropriate measure to correct the imbalance of dosha. So, which stage the disease is in which stage, that we should know. Then only we can treat the disease accordingly. So, that is the Kriya Kala. Next slide. Kriya Kala means it is having two words, that is Shat and Kriya Kala. Shat means 6 and Kriya Kala means Kriya and Kala. It constitutes Kriya Kala. Kriya means Chikitsa and Kala means the stage of progress of diseases. So in short, Kriya Kala is attentivity towards Chikitsa. Directly we are going to the Chikitsa. Next slide. So there are two types of Kriya Kala. That is, one is Ritu Kriya Kala and next is Vyadhi Kriya Kala. Next slide. Ritu Kriya Kala means, that is Prakriti Kriya Kala, means daily changes are happening in particular season and it is described in Ritu Kriya Kala. Cycles of Ritu are natural and so the changes occurring in doshas will also be natural. That is included in 3 stages, Chaya, Prakopa and Prashama. So this does not cause any severe problem to the body because these are practiced. If these are practiced properly, the doshas will not cause any much problem to the body. And it is clearly mentioned the Ritu Shodhana and it should be, we must do that properly. Next slide. That is the Ritu Kriya Kala and the importance of Ritu Sandhi is also mentioned in that Ritu. Ridoho Andyadi Saptaha. That you have that quotation you have learned in the previous subjects. Okay, next slide. Shodhana treatment also. Shidodbhavam Doshachayam Vasande Vishodhayan Grishmajam Apragale. That also you have learned. Next slide. No need to by heart this quotation. The question will be coming like this. What is Kriya, Shat Kriya Kala and the role of Panchakarma? That will be the main question. Role of Panchakarma in Kriya Kala. So just mention these points and just elaborate that application or role of Panchakarma in Kriya Kala only. So coming to Vyadhi Kriya Kala, some abnormal changes takes place in doshas due to Adhita Ahara, Ahita Achara and Viruddha Ahara Acharas. And doshas do not revert back to normal condition of their own and continue to become profound, give rise to diseases, and if it remains unchecked, it will threaten the life. So it requires remedial measures at the earliest. Samprapti gives us an insight into the development of disease and give an exact idea about how etiological factors give rise to increased formation of doshas, how doshas travel to various sites and the causation of doshas, disease. So each avastha should be properly understood. Next slide. And it includes 6 types: Chaya, Prakopa, Prasara, Sthana Samshaya, Vyakti and Bheda. Next slide. Coming to the significance, that is, Kriya Kala helps in early recognition of the stage of progress of disease and its treatment, and also a clear view of Kriya Kala is necessary for diagnosis, prognosis, and adopting the preventive and curative measures in proper time. Also, when the deranged dosha got pacified in Chaya dosha or Chaya avastha, then we can prevent the next further staging. and further progression of disease can be prevented. Next slide. That is the Sanchaya Avastha. Tatra Prathama Kriya Kala Samhadi Rupa Vritti Chaya. That two quotations you need to by heart. Tatra Prathama Kriya Kala Samhadi Rupa Vritti Chaya. Next slide. That is the stage of accumulation of dosha. This is the first stage of Kriya Kala, and Vikrita dosha starts accumulating at their own sites or accumulation of doshas in its principal site. So, beginning phase of disease characterized by vague and ill-defined symptoms is the Chaya Avastha. That is the first stage. And the clinical manifestation include the main sites are Vata, Pitta and Kapha. Some symptoms are there. The dosha sanjaya is in Amashaya and Pakvashaya, which is the Sarva Daihika Samanya Sthana of Tridoshas. Tatra Sapta Purna Koshtada, that is for Vada dosha, and Pida Avabhasada Mandoshmada for Pitta dosha, Anga Gauravam and Alasam for Kapha dosha. Next slide. Next is the treatment. So it is important to treat the dosha in Chaya Avastha itself. So we can prevent the further spread of the stage of the disease into the next Kriya Kala and further complications. So Nidana Parivarjana is the treatment. In Alpa dosha, it's Lenkhanam, and Madhyama, that Tatra Alpe Lenkhanam Patyam, Lenkhana Pajanam, then dosha Avasaya. This is the treatment principle by using Nidana Parivarjana. Next slide. Next is the Prakopa condition, stage of provocation. Sthana Unmarga Gamanam, Prakopa Parikirtida, Kopastu Unmarga Gamida. That is, you have learned that. So in first Sanjaya Avastha, we have learned that Tatra Prathama Kriya Kala Samhadi Rupa Vritti Chaya. Samhadi Rupa Vritti Chaya. Here, Kopastu Unmarga Gamida.
Ma'am, network issue.
To this, coming to Prakopa Avastha, it is defined as the movement of doshas away from principal site. So, when doshas are not brought to equilibrium in Sanjaya Avastha, the doshas which have previously accumulated and stagnated, it will become swollen and excited. That is Kopastu Unmarga Gameda. It becomes excited, and Vigrita dosha gains Vigrita Bala due to dosha specific Nidana. Next slide. And it is of two types, that is Achaya Purvaga Prakopa and Chaya Purvaga Prakopa. Achaya Purvaga Prakopa means without accumulation in their principal sites, and Chaya Purvaga means with accumulation in their principal sites. According to Vakpada, Prakopa is the dissemination of doshas from their principal seats. And Hemadri compares Sthana Samsraya Kriya Kala to Prakopa, where the symptoms are expressed. That is Hemadri. Next slide. Next, coming to the clinical manifestation, Koshta Toda Sanjaranam. That is Koshta Toda and Koshta Vada Sanjarana is in Vada dosha, and in Pitta dosha Amla Udgara Pipasa Paridaha, and in Kapha dosha Annadvesha Krillasa can be seen. It will be manifested in the Prakopa Avastha. Next slide. Next is the treatment. So the line of treatment, it should be for the increased dosha. Here doshas are increased. It shouldn't interfere with the other doshas. And if Prakopa of all three doshas occur, whichever is powerful should be treated first. That is, we have seen in the principles of Chikitsa. And if three doshas are equal strength, first take treatment for Vada, then Pitta and Kapha. That is by the Susrutacharya. And in Achaya Purvaga Prakopa, Shamana Upachara should be done. In Chaya Purvaga Prakopa, Shodhana treatment should be done. Vamanadi, Shodhana Karma should be done. Next slide. Next, coming to the Prasara Avastha. Prasara means it is the stage of propagation. Kopandara Prasaro Bhavadi Doshana. First Chaya, then Prakopa and Prasara. Doshana Prasaro Yatha Kamam Sanjara. First, this quotation only you can learn. Kopandara Prasaro Bhavadi Doshana. Prasaranti Deshandaram Chalanti. That is by Chakrapani Acharya. Tesham Prasarascha Siramargena Pratirogamidi. That no need to by heart that quotation. Next slide. The term prasara, what is meant by the term prasara? It means to spread. Doshas vitiated by their concerned causes will leave their original places and spread to other parts of the body. First, that is chaya, and after the chaya, the prakopa occurs and it will get excited. And then in third condition, that is prasara, means it will spread to other parts of the body, either through urdhva or adha marga, or by koshta shakha marga or marma asti santi marga. You have learned the roga margas. Either through any of the roga margas, they will spread to all parts of the body. That is the chaya, prakopa and prasara. And one simile is mentioned, that example of soaking starch products for an overnight, which ferments and rises up, acquiring new and unseen qualities. That is the an illustration for this prasara avastha. Next slide. Narasimhacharya defines prasara as pervasiveness of doshas in the entire body-mind complex. Delhana differentiates this prasara from prakopa with an example, that is just the melting of solid ghee, that is prakopa, and overflowing of the ghee with froth on continuous heating, that is prasara. Just melting the ghee is prakopa and overflowing ghee with froth is prasara. That is by Delhana Acharya. Next slide. Next, coming to the factors responsible for prasara avastha. Sahi rejo bhuishta rajasta pravartagam sarva bhavanam. Only dosha, that is rejo dosha, rejo guna is responsible for prasara dosha, prasara avastha. And what is the main cause for prasara? It is the rejo guna of vada. Vada dosha is responsible for this rejo guna. So this vitiated dosha circulated throughout the body in association with vada dosha, and prasara occurs through this sira marga. Next slide. Next is the types of prasara. 15 types of prasara you can see. Vada, pitta, kapha, rekta, vada, pitta. And that is combination of 15 types of prasara you can see. Next slide. Next, coming to the clinical manifestation. What are the clinical manifestation of prasara avastha? Vimarga gamanam adopam. That is seen in the vada dosha. Osha, chosha, paridaha, dhumayana, pitta. Kapha dosha means arojaga, avipaga, angasada and chardi. These are the clinical manifestation of prasara avastha in vada, pitta and kapha dosha respectively. Next slide. Coming to the treatment. What will be the treatment? Neutralizing the increased or vitiated doshas by all possible means. That includes the Hedu Viparita Chikitsa and Lakshana Viparita Chikitsa. Should be followed in the prasara avastha. Next slide. Next is the Sthana Samsraya. Chaya, Prakopa, Prasara and Sthana Samsraya. It is the stage of localization. Purva Rupa Gadeshu Chadurtha Kriya Kala. Susruta Sutra mentions. And then Deha Ekadesha Asrayanam Sthana Samsrayanam Vidu. That no need to by heart. Purva Rupa Gadeshu Chadurtha Kriya Kala. So this stage can also be called as stage of localization of the disease at a particular site where their strongly vitiated doshas resides to the weakened dhatus. So from this stage, correctly the real pathological process begins. That is why the Purva Rupa Gadeshu, the Purva Rupa of the disease will manifest in this Sthana Samsraya condition. And it triggers local and systemic factors at the biochemistry level itself. Next slide. Next is the factors affecting the Sthana Samsraya. What are the factors affecting Sthana Samsraya? The vitiated dosha circulated throughout the body in association with the Vada dosha. That is, Prasradanam punardoshanam srodo vaigunya tatra sangamsa sthana samsraya. That is by Delhana Acharya. The vitiated doshas get sthana samsraya at the place where srodo vaigunya or dushta srodas is there. From that point, the disease of the Purva Rupa occurs. Next slide. That is, the Ahida Ahara Vihara will leads to excited doshas, and along with that, the Rasa Dhatu causes Sroto Vaigunya. And that result, that Sodo Vaigunya results in Ojakshaya and Agni-mandya. Thereby, it results to the failure to give remedial measures to control the doshas. We can't control the Sthana Samsraya condition, and it will develop to the predominant Sthana Samsraya stage. Next slide. Next is a Purva Rupa definition, because the Purva Rupa occurs in the Sthana Samsraya condition, and that is why Sthana Samsrayana Krutta Bhavi Vyadhi Prabodhagam Dosha Kurubandi Yet Lingam Purva Rupam Taduchyade. That is from Madhu Kosha. Next slide. How this Purva Rupa manifest? Sthana Samsraya stage is also known as Purva Rupa stage. That quotation you have seen in the previous slide. Prasradhanam Punardoshanam Shrodo Vaigunya Tatra Sangamsa Sthana Samsraya. Sama dosha due to Shrodo Vaigunya will not enter the minute Shrodas, and it cannot, and it get localized and come in direct contact with Dushya, Mala, and it causes Dosha Dushya Samurchana. Dosha Dushya Samurchana is nothing but the Roga, and it causes the Purva Rupa. Next slide. And some clinical manifestations you can see. In Udara, what all manifestations you can see? Gulma, Vidradi, Udara Roga, Agni Sanga, Anaha, Vishujika, Adisara. In Vasti Pradesha, Prameha, Ashmari, Mutra Khada, Mutra Dosha. In Medra Pradesha, Nirutta Prakasha, Ubadamsha, Shuka Dosha. In Gudamarga, Arsha Bhagandara. In Vrishana Pradesha, Vritti Roga you can see. Next slide. In Urtha Jatru Gada Vigaras, and in Tvak Mamsa Rekta, Kushta, Kshudra Roga, Visarpa. In Meda Thadu, Granthi, Apaji, Arbuda, Galaganda, and Alaji. In Asti Pradesha, Vidradi, and Anushai, you can see. In Pada, that is, you can see Sleepada, Vada Shonida, Vada Kandaka, etc. In Sarvanga Gada, it is Jwara and Sarvanga Roga. So these are the manifestations. Udara Roga, Udara Pradesha, Vasti, Medra, Guda, Vrishana, etc. Each clinical manifestations you can see. In Urtha Jatru, Tvak Mamsa, etc. Next slide. According to Delhana, you cannot see this Majja, Shukra, Gada doshas anywhere. Why? Because the dosha vyadhi, it is very rare occurrence and vagueness of symptoms exhibited in this Majja, Gada, and Shukra Gada vyadhis. That is why it is not included in this lakshanas or manifestations. That Majja, Shukra, Gadanam, Doshanam, Vyathayo, na nirdishta. Why? Swalpatvat. Dalhanacharya mentioned the omission of Majja and Shukra doshaja vyadhis is because of its rare occurrence and vagueness of symptoms exhibited. Next slide. Next, going to the treatment. Treatment here means already the Purva Rupa has occurred. So the treatment should be Snehana and Swedana. So Purva Karma, it plays an important role here. Snehana means cleanness of Sukshma Srotas occurs. For Dravigarana of doshas, we will do Svedana. And these two karmas bring back the doshas from Shakha to Koshta. And then we can do the probable treatment here. So the principal treatment means treating local dosha simultaneously, keeping in mind that causative dosha is not aggravated. So the Snehana and Svedana should be done, and thereby we can bring back the doshas from Shakha to Koshta. Next slide. Chadurtha Kriya Kala idi Chadurtha Chigilsa Avasara. Chigilsa cha atra doshasya dushasya chaityubhaya asrada. That is by Delhanacharya. Just by heart, the Chadurtha Kriya Kala idi Chadurtha Chigilsa Avasara. And here we are bringing back the doshas from Shakha to Koshta. Dosha Vyadhi Pratyaniga Chigilsa is the main treatment. Vyayama Dushmana Staikshnyat Ahida Charanadabi Koshtat Shakha Asti Marmani Drudatvat Marutasyacha Dosha Yandi Tada Tepya Srodo Mukha Vishodhanat Prati Abhishendanat Pakat Koshtam Vayoscha Nigrahat. That is the main treatment principle in the Sthana Samsraya Avastha. Next slide. Next, going to the Vyakta Avastha or stage of manifestation. The Vyati becomes Vyakta. Vyatehe Pravyakta Rupam Vyaktihi. Vyakta Avastha means Vyadi has become a Vyakti Rupa, Pravyakta Rupa by Delhanacharya. And it is the fifth Kriya Kala. Vyakta Lingata is Vyakta Avastha. And the manifestation of disease in its fully recognizable form. That means we can identify that it has become a disease. In that form, it is the Vyakta Avastha. The symptoms can be seen. Symptoms of morbid factors causing disease and symptoms of disease can be seen in this Vyakta Avastha. Next slide. The stage in which the fully aggravated dosha assumes the severe form, it is known as the Vyati, and it is the Vyakti form. And some synonyms are there. Rupa, Samsthana, Vyanjana, Linga, Lakshana, Chinna, Akriti, etc. are the synonyms. Vyakti Rupa of the disease. Next slide. Here, the lakshanas of morbid factors causing the disease as well as the symptoms can be seen. That you have seen that the dosha dusha samorchana gets completed and the rupa avastha, purva rupa has converted to the rupa avastha. So, in jara, that is santapa lakshanam, and adisara drava mala pravarti, you can see. Not drava amla pravarti, it is drava mala pravarti. Next slide. Next, going to the treatment. Disease-oriented treatment should be done in this state. That is Vyadhi Pratyaniga. In the previous condition, Dosha Vyadhi Pratyaniga should be done in the Purva Rupa Avastha. And in this condition, Vyadhi Pratyaniga Chikitsa should be the treatment. Next slide. Next is the Bheda Avastha, Vyakti, then Bheda Avastha. It is the stage of complication or chronicity, sixth or final Kriya Kala, and the persistent lingering of a disease should be deemed as Bheda, and it is an indication of bad prognosis, Asadhya condition. In this stage, the pathogenesis, the process of pathogenesis completes, and the patient will develop the diseases like as Dosha Pratyaniga Vyati, and it may become the subacute or chronic disease. Next slide. And in this context, it is the Nidana Arthagara Rogas. At this occurs, the importance of recognizing this stage lies not only to provide a valuable aid in prognosis, but also we must be in mind that when disease reaches this stage, it may cause the predisposing causes of other diseases. That is Nidana Arthagara Roga. That is when a Vidradi bursts, it can exhibit the symptoms of Vrana. Next slide. These are the Kriya Kalas from Chaya, Prakopa, Prasara, Sthana, Samsraya, Vikti and Bheda. And this is the applied aspect of Kriya Kala in Panchakarma. One question have asked in one exam, explain Shat Kriya Kala and the role of Panchakarma. It is important. That is Tanyupastida Doshanam, Sneha Svedopa Padani, Panchakarmani Kurvida, Matra Kalo Vicharayani, in Upastida Dosha, we will do Snehana, Svedana, and then only we will do the Panchakarma with looking the Matra and Kala. Next slide. Also, even though the progress of disease is from Chaya, Prakopa, Prasara, then to Sthana Samsraya, the patient usually identifies this condition only in Purva Rupa Avastha. We can see only the Sthana Samsraya Avastha. And at this stage, if proper Shodhana could be administered according to condition, that is in Upasthita Avastha, this Sneha Sweda can be done, and then further Shodhana Karma is done, the disease can be arrested, or progression of the disease can be arrested. So, if the disease further progresses to Roga Avastha, the actual treatment is where Vyadhi Viparita Chikitsa has to be done. Next, going to the Chikitsa, Lankhana and Brahmana. The mainly Panchakarma is included under this Shodhana Chikitsa, and considering the disease Jara, you can see the Vamana, Virejana, Nasya, wherever you should do. That is in Vamana, Tatra Utkrishte, Samutkrishte, Kapapraye, Chale Male, Sahrillasa Prasega, Annadvesha, Kasa Vishujige, Sadhyo Bhuktasi Sanjata, that quotation. In that condition, we are choosing Vamana. In that manifestation, we are choosing Vamana. Next slide. When will we choose this Virejana? Pakvetu Shithile Doshe. Jwareva Vishamadhyaje, Modagam Triphala Shama, Trivar Pippali Kesare. In that condition, Pakvetu Shidile Doshe. In that condition, Virejana we will apply. Coming to Vasti, Niruhastu Belam Vanni, Vijwarattam Mudam Ruji, Doshe Yukta Karotyashu Pakve Pakvashe Gade. In that condition, we will do Vasti. Anuvasana Vasti, Prakshina Kapa Pittasya, Triga Prishta Kadi Grahe, Deeptakner Batta Shakrata, Prayunjita Anuvasana. That regarding the Anuvasana Vasti in Prakshina Kapha Pitta condition, and when the doshas are in Triga Prishta Kadi Graha is there, in Deepta Agni condition, in Batta Shakrat condition, we will choose or opt Anuvasana Vasti. Next slide. Next is the Nasya Karma. Nasya means Shiro Roga, Shiro Gaurava, Sleshma Haram, Indriya Bothanam, Jirna Jware Ruchikaram, Dadyat Nasyam Virejanam. Snahigam Shunya Shiraso Daharte Pitta Nashanam. In that conditions, we are opting Nasya. So, in the Vektavasa of the diseases, different Panchakarmas are explained in curative aspect. So, Panchakarmas can be attributed for Brahmana also. In example, the Punaravartaka Jara, Yapanavasti, you can see. That is the condition when Brahmana can be chosen. Bhedavastha refers to chronicity of the disease and to prevent the disease from leading to chronicity. So, Shodhana is a best option and it can prevent from the progression to the Nidana Arthagara Rogas. Next slide. Also, different regimens in Dinacharya and Ridhucharya helps in periodic elimination of accumulated dosha. So, that is Abhyanga, Jara, Srama, Vatahara. In Uddartana, in Vasanta Kapaharam, Vedasam Pravilayanam. That you can see. Then Virejana and Raktamokshana in Sharat Ritu. Virejana is mentioned, Raktamokshana is mentioned. And Jayandaga Sweda and Pada Khada can be seen in Hemanda Ritu. Also 14 Pradimarsha Nasya Kala. 14 Pradimarsha Nasya Kala you can see. These all are the different regimens in Dinacharya and Ridhucharya. That in Shidodbhavam Dosha Jayam Vasandi. That in that condition we are doing the periodic elimination of the accumulated dosha. Also, the judicial administration of Panchakarma in appropriate Kriya Kala helps in preventive and curative aspects of the disease. These are the applied aspect of Panchakarma in or role of Panchakarma in Kriya Kala. Some research articles are there. You can go through it. There is clinical significance of Kriya Kala in Ayurveda and some Ayurvedic concept of Shat Kriya Kala. That is a traditional knowledge of cancer, pathogenesis and therapy. You can just go through it. Next slide. Next, going to the importance of Panchakarma in health and disease. Next slide. So, the objective of Panchakarma are health maintenance, elimination of disease and preparation for the Rasayana Karma or rejuvenation. Next slide. Coming to the health maintenance, some points we have already covered. That is Swasthya Rakshana. It is Panchakarma is recommended for most individuals even though they are healthy and as a part of regular seasonal regimens. The doshas naturally accumulate owing to seasonal changes and can cause disease if they are not timely removed. So in this healthy person, the importance of Panchakarma we can go through by Dinacharya, Ridhucharya and Vegarothajanya Vasta. Next slide. And this is a research article, that is a role of Panchakarma in Swasthya. You can go through in the ResearchGate net publication, role of Panchakarma in Swasthya. So coming to Dinacharya in Abhyanga Majaret Nityam Sajara Shramavadaha Drishti Prasada Pushti Ayu Swapna Sutvakta Dardyakrat. Also Shirasravana Padeshu Visheshena Tam Shilayet. And this is Abhyanga is not a Panchakarma, but this importance of Panchakarma means it includes Purva Karma, Prathana Karma and also Paschat Karma. And this Abhyanga etc. are included under the Purva Karma. You can write it like that. Next slide. Next, coming to the Padabhyanga, Karatvam, Stapthada, Rauksham, Srama Suktishta Padayo, that you have learned in the Bahya Snehana classes. Just next slide. Just go through it. Next is the contraindication of vam. Abhyanga, Varjyo, Abhyanga, Kapagrasta, Krida, Samshuddhi, Ajir Nebi, Taruna, Jwari, Ajir Nicha, Na Apyaktavya Kathanjana. That is mentioned in Susruta Chikilsa Sthana. Next slide. Next is Udvartana. Udvartanam, Kabaharam, Medasaha Pravilayanam, Sthirikaranam, Anganam, Tvak Prasadagaram Param. That is in the importance of Purva Karma. That is the Udvartana. In that quotation you can include Mamsala, Medura, Puri Sleshmano, Vishamakneya. In that condition, we will do the first Rukshana Kriya we are doing. That include the Udvartana, etc. Next slide. Next is the Nasya Karma. Varshe, Varshe, Anu Tailam cha Kaleshu Trishuna Acharet. Pravrat Sharat Vasandeshu Gade Mekhe Napastale. Nasya Karma Yatha Kalam. Don't need to
Ma'am.
Doctor, your mic is mute.
hello.
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. So whatever quotations you have learned regarding Nasya, you can include there. No need to by heart this quotation itself. Next slide. So importance of Gandusha. Hannor Balam, Swara Balam, Vadano Upachaya Para, Syat Paramcha, Rasatnyanam, Annecha, Rujiruttama. That is the Ruji Aram. It is the Gandusha. You can include the types of Gandusha, everything, anything else you have include in this Gandusha. Next slide. So these are the Dinacharya, importance of Panchakarma in regarding the Dinacharya. And the main is the Murthini Taila, Nityam Snehardra Shirasaha, Shirashulam na Jayade, na Khalityam, na Palityam, na Kesha Prabadandicha, etc. That no need to by heart this full lines, better to by heart two lines and by heart the quotations of each Murtha Taila. Abhyanga, Seka, Pijavo, Vastischedi, Chadurvita. 4 types of Murtha Taila you have learned and the benefits of Murtha Taila better to include. Kajashadana, Siddhatva, Pinjaratva in Gandusha Vidhi, Ashtanga Hridaya, you can see that quotation. Next slide. Next is the Karna Purana. Na Karna Roga, Vadotha, na Manya, Hanu Sangraha, na Uchair, Sudhir, na Bathirya, Syat Nityam, Karna Tarpana. By doing Karna Tarpana daily, for a healthy person, what all benefits you are getting. That is the quotation. Next slide. Then coming to the Ruducharya, we have finished the Dinacharya and next Ruducharya concept. Panchakarmas are mentioned according to the Dosha, Saya, Prakopadi in each Rudu. In Hemanta and Shishira Rudu, we can do Abhyanga, Utsadana, Murtha Taila, Jaindaga, Sweda, Abdapa Sweda. This slide we have seen in the previous topic. Okay. Next slide. That is in Behi Parimarjana Chikilsa, Rudu Avastha. Rudu Anusara Chikilsa you have seen in each Rudus, what all we should do. In Vasanta Rudu, Kapa Prakopa and Agni occurs. So, Tasmat Vasante Vamanadini Karayet. That is in Kapa Prakopa occurs and Vamana should be done. If it is Pitta Samsrishta Kapha, Tikshna Virejana should be done. If Vada Pitta Prakopa is there, Virejana, Astabana Vasti and Anuvasana Vasti can be adopted. Shiro Virejana is also indicated for Kapha. Next. In Grishma Rudu, Vadachaya occurs and Kritapana is mentioned. Then in Sharat Rudu, Pitta Prakopa, Tiktaka Kritapana, Virejana, Rekta Mokshana is mentioned. In Varsha Rudu, Vada Prakopa is there. Vasti is also mentioned. Next slide. So we have finished the Dinacharya and Ruducharya concept. Next is the Vegarotha conditions. So Vegas are having great importance in Swastha because the doshas are causing because of the Udirana and Dharana, Vega Dharana. Like that it is mentioned. So it is for Swastha, the Vegas are having great importance. And some Panchakarma, not only Panchakarmas, that is Purva Karmas, are also mentioned in the management of many Vegarodha conditions. In Adho Vadajanya, some Lakshanas are there and treatments like Sneha Sweda Vidhi, Varti, Vasti Karma are mentioned. In Mutra Vegarodajanya, Avapidaka Snehapana, Trivitha Vastikarma is mentioned. Avapidaka Snehapana, everything we have finished in the Sneha Dhyaya. And Purishajanya Vegaroda, Sweda, Abhyanga, Avagaha, Niruha can be done as Chikilsa. Next slide. Coming to the Udgara Vegaroda, Hikka Tulya treatment can be done. Next, Kshut Vegaroda Janya, Snigdhoshna Laku Bhojana is there. And in Pipasa, Sarvashida Vidhi Hidahara, Nidra, Swapna with Samvahana treatment is. Samvahana is a type of massage. So that also is mentioned in Nidra treatment. Next slide. Next, coming to Srama Swasa, Visrama and Vadakna Kriya can be done. In Bashpa, Swapna, Madhya, Priyakatha is mentioned. In Chardi, Rekta Mokshana, Prachardana, Virejana, Abhyanga can be seen as Chikilsa. In Shukra Vegarodajanya, Abhyanga, Avagaha, Niruha Vasti can be seen. And Kshavatu Rogajanya, Urtha Jatru Abhyanga, Sweda, Dhuma, Navana, Uttara Bhaktiga Kridapana can be seen as a treatment. Next slide. And this much we have seen the Panchakarma in health, importance of Panchakarma in health, Dinacharya, Ridhucharya and Vegarodajanya conditions. And coming to Panchakarma in disease, Dosha Kadajit Kupyandi Jida Lankana Pajani Yetu Samshodhane Shuddha Na Tesham Punaruddhava. And you have noted that nowadays many lifestyle disorders are increasing. Why? Because our lifestyle is not proper. So due to that improper lifestyle, some sort of ama or toxins are accumulated in our body, and the importance of Panchakarma is very much applicable there. So that is the Dosha Kadajit Kupyandi Jidalankana Pajane Yetu Samshodhane Kruddha Shuddha Na Tesham Punaruddhava. It will not reoccur by the usage of or Panchakarma. This quotation also you have seen. Dosha Kshina Brahmaidavya, Kubida Prashamaidavya, Vritta Nirhartavya, Sama Paripale Idi Siddhanta. That is importance of Panchakarma you can mention initially. Okay. Next slide. Next slide. Some research articles are there. That is, in some diseases, some articles are there. Previous slide. Doctor, previous slide. That is, role of Ayurveda, Panchakarma and Ayurvedic drugs in the management of Amavada. It is a case study. Then title of article, that is Panchakarma therapy in Asti Majja Gada Vada, with special reference to ankylosing spondylitis. It is also a case study. And importance of Ayurveda, Panchakarma treatment in Ayurveda. See, one question was asked in one exam, that is a role of Panchakarma in autoimmune diseases. Like that, it will be asking. Next slide. So just go through this research articles and you can get some points. There is guidelines for safer Panchakarma practice in non-COVID clinical care during Corona pandemic. And then best practices in Panchakarma, some by group of some authors are there. And a critical review on area of research in standardization of Panchakarma procedures. That also you can go through it. That if this one area of research in Panchakarma, one point is there in your syllabus point. So just go through this research articles and you can just note down in a notebook and just go through it. Next slide. Also, the efficacy of Panchakarma in Santhigata Vada with special reference to knee arthritis, also, and the role of Panchakarma in the management of cerebral palsy in children. Then management of Gridrasi using Panchakarma therapies. It is also a review article. Just go through it, and question will be asking like that, role of Panchakarma in autoimmune disease, role of Panchakarma in Gridrasi, like that it will be asked. Next slide. Next slide. This Panchakarma as Pratiroga Chikitsa. I have just included every roga and some treatments are given. Just include the quotations wherever and whatever you have learned regarding this treatments. In Jara Chikitsa, that is Taruna Jara, Svedana, Vamana is mentioned. In Jirna Jara, Virejana, Nasya, Niruha, Kritapana is mentioned. In Ushna Jara, Parisheka, Avagaha, Shida Jara, Ushna Pradeha, and Sannipada Jara, Jakta Mokshna, you can see. In Punara Avartaga Jara, Shothana Chigilsa, and Yapana Vasti, you can see. So just include the quotations you have learned in this before in the UG classes. And coming to Rekta Pitta, Urthvaga, that is Virejana, and Adhoga, it is Adhoga Rekta Pitta, Vamana is the treatment of choice. And in Gulma, some Snehana, Svedana, Niruha Vastis are mentioned. Just go through that Adhyayas and just include the quotations whichever you have learned in the UG classes only. And next is the Kasa. Kasa Chigilsa, Snehanam, Kridapana, Vamanam, Virejanam. In Kshadaja Kasa, Nasya and Kridapana is mentioned. In Kshayaja Kasa, Sasneha, Mrudu Virejana is mentioned. Next slide. In Shwasa Hika, Abhyanga, Svedana, Vamana. In Tamaga Shwasa Virejana, Tamagetu Virejana. Like that, sometimes question may come. Just go through that Adhyaya. And in Pandu, Tikshna Vamana and Tikshna Virejana can be opted. Next slide. In Kamala, Virejana is the choice. Halimaga, that is Virejana, Yabana Vasti, Kshira Vasti is mentioned. In Prameha, Kridapana, Vamana, Virejana can be opted. Next slide. Kushta, every 15 days Vamana, every month Virejana, every 3 days Nasya, every 6 months Rekta Mokshana. Just by heart that quotation. Then Apasmara, here Tikshna Vamana and Virejana is required in Apasmara condition. Next slide. In Vada Rekta, so that is a role of Panchakarma in autoimmune diseases. That you can list out the autoimmune diseases, modern aspect, and the Vada Rekta. The line of treatment in Ayurvedic line will be the Vada Rekta choice. There is two types are there, Uttana Avastha and Gambhira Avastha. In Uttana, Leva, Abhyanga, Parisheka, Avagahanam. Then Gambhira Avastha, Virejana, Asthabana, Snehapana, Rekta Mokshana, Virejana Vasti is mentioned. That is Nite Niramatam Same Sweda Lenkhana Pajani. That quotation also we can include because in the Amavastha, first we should do the Leva, Parishega, Avagahana, etc. And then only we will shift on to the Virejana, Asthavana, Snehapana, etc. Next slide. Next is the Vada Vyadhi Chikilsa. Samanya Chikilsa, you know that Kevalam Nirubastamba Madhav Snehai Rupajare. Next, that is Snehana, Svedana, Mrudu Virejana, Vasti. Then Ardida. In Ardida, specific treatment. Ardide, Navanam, Murthine Thailam, Srotra Akshitarpanam. That also, that sometimes it may ask in facial palsy or in Bell's palsy or in Ardida, like that, a role of Panchakarma. That, like that question may come. You can include these quotations also. Next slide. In Pakshakada, Snehanam, Svedanam, Virejanam, Pakshakade, Virejanam. Like that question may come. Gridrasi, Abhyanga, Svedana, Vasti, etc. Next slide. Apabahuga, Nastya and Auttara Bhaktika Snehapana. That also you can note. Next slide. These are the importance of Panchakarma in disease. And next is the third point, Panchakarma as a Shodhana prior to Rasayana Vidhi. Rasayana is done after the body is purified by this Shodhana Karma only. Haridhakyadi, Gana and all is mentioned. So importance of this Shodhana Karma prior to Rasayana Vidhi, that you must include these quotations. Next slide. In which age, that is Purve Vayasi Madhyeva, Tat Prayojam Jitatmana, Sniktasya Sudarektasya Vishuddhasya cha Sarvatha, Avishuddha Sadirehi Yukto Rasayano Vidhi, Vaji Garova Maline Vastre Renga Iva Aphala. These are the similes. And the age group, we should do this Rasayana Karma. Purve Vayasi Madhyeva, Tat Prayojam Jitatmana. And we should do this Snigdasya, Snehana, Rektamokshana, and the whole Shodhana procedure must be done before this Rasayana Karma. And like how this dirty clothes will not get dyed by this colors, likewise, this Avishuddha Sharira will not get the phala of this Rasayana or result of this Rasayana Karma. That is the simile. Avishuddha sharirehi yukto rasayano viti vaji karova maline rastre ranga iva aphala. That will be aphala rasayana chigilsa. Next slide. And this panchakarma is a preparatory process for shastra karma. It is mentioned. That is purva karma, pradhana karma, and paschat karma. This is for really shastra karma. That is purva karma as Lankhanadi Vireganta treatment is mentioned. And Patanam, Ropana, etc. as pradhana karma. Bala Varna Agni Varthana as the paschat karma. This is mentioned as the preparatory process for shastra karma. Next slide. And coming to the benefits of Panchakarma. Malabham, Rogaharam, Balavarna Prasadanam, Pitwa Samshodanam, Samyak Ayusha Yujyade Chiram. Better by heart the quotation. Evam Vishuddha Koshtasya Kayaknir Abhivarthade. What all benefits are getting? The Kayakni is getting ignited. Vyatha Escha Upashamyandi, Vyathi gets relieved. Pragradishcha Anuvartade, Indriyani, Mano, Buddhi, Varnashcha Asya Prasidadi, Belam Pushti Rapatyamcha, Vrishadacha Asya Jayade, Jaram Krutsrena Labhade, Chiram Jivatyanamaya. These are the benefits of Panchakarma mentioned in Charaga Sutrasthana. Next slide. That is, the strengthens immune system and provides more resistance to illness, cleansing and rejuvenating for both body, mind, and also consciousness. And overall health, wellness, and self-healing are got. And then relieve stress from the both body and mind. And it slows aging process, eliminates excess doshas and toxins from cells. It enhances digestion and metabolism. Very important. Kayakner abhivartade. Next slide. Also clears the sense faculties. Indriyascha abhivarthadi. Mind, intelligence, and complexion. Increase strength, nourishes the body, revitalizes the nervous system, bring deep relaxation and sense of well-being, implements positive lifestyle changes, and reduced anxiety levels. Next slide. These are the benefits of Panchakarma. So we have finished today Chigilsa and its classification. That is Anta Parimarjana, Bahi Parimarjana, principles of Chigilsa, the Moola Chigilsa, Sharira Antargata Chigilsa, Sthanagata Chigilsa, Sannipada Dosha Chigilsa, and Anubandhya and Anubandha Dosha Chigilsa. And then Bahi Parimarjana, Anta Parimarjana, everything we have dealt. Then importance of Panchakarma in health and disease. In health means Dinacharya, Ritucharya, and Vegarodhajanya conditions we have added. And some research articles are there. Role of Panchakarma in Swasthya, you can add on it. And in importance of Panchakarma in disease, that also you can add. That is each disease and each conditions. Just note it in a notebook and write down the quotations, which all quotations we have studied earlier. Only that is needed. And some quotations like this, Paksha Khade Virejanam, Tamagetu Virejanam. Like that, some questions will ask. In autoimmune, some list out some autoimmune disorders and just make a note of short note on some autoimmune disorders. And Sandigata Vada, osteoarthritis, like that. Then, if questions are arising like this, role of Panchakarma in this autoimmune disorders, just give a brief note on autoimmune disorders and why this Panchakarma is applicable and what all are mentioned in the Ayurvedic concept. Like that, you should write, and everybody you should keep in mind that whatever questions are asking in your PG exam, you should not forget to include the research articles. You should include the research articles and just give a brief note if time is allowed. According to the marks, you can include the research articles and just include the content of the research article. Just add a summary of that. And in your college, your seniors have done so many theses. Just go through that and just write a title of that itself. Then you can incorporate in the questions wherever these questions are asking. In the exams and all, you can include in that questions. If you can remember that some seniors have done that thesis regarding this disease, then you can note that thesis and just imagine, just keep in mind the title of the study. Okay. And then we have finished the Kriya Kala and role of Panchakarma in Kriya Kala. And that all topics we have discussed today. I think it is clear. And thank you so much for the patient hearing. And thank you, doctors.